open.
Yeah.
This thing consists of a series of shafts. There are 10 of them. Each has its own motor while it's standing there open. The motor rotates. That's the shaft there. The motor rotates the structure that holds a series of, what do you call them? Flingers.
Yeah.
Flingers.
Lovely term, flinger.
Yeah.
So they're tunneling.
I hate to put my finger in there, but anyway, it's like it's a finger with a nail on it. Except this is a tungsten carbide, and tungsten is the hardest of all the metals. The carbon is the hardest of all compounds, and the two together in this fused state gives you the best wearing surface that you're going to get. The liners are a tungsten carbide material welded onto a metal backing. So your print, and this then spins. Your material is fed from the top through a chute. A series of shaft spins at selected and varying speeds, depending on what you're trying to achieve, what tonnage you want to put into this. The principle of the thing being these shafts rotate this way, inwards, so that they're rotating inwards with a view to forcing the material down. As it gets lower, your rotation speeds, particularly on the bottom 4 shafts, or on stages 4 and 5 as they're called, those speeds are generally higher, and that tends to give you the final breakdown of the product. The milling principle in this thing is as much an attrition milling as anything else, in that it's particle on particle. So you need to put material through it. I mean, it's obviously abrasive and high resistant to wear, particularly on the sides and on the liners. But it does wear. I mean, you want to put, you're basically putting sand in this thing, and you're rubbing a bit of metal very hard against a bit of sand for a long period of time. It does wear out eventually. Okay. What's happened with this is, as you've explained, that there's been a little bit of a leak into one of the seals, and the bearing, this is a bearing cap that sits here. The bearing would be sitting behind it, which is lubricated. In one of these seals, one of the bearing areas has got some moisture and material into it, and that's fairly abrasive and will very quickly wear on the shaft and on the bearing. So it's a fairly easy thing with a mill like this to repair and strip. A conventional, not that this isn't conventional or this is going to become much more conventional, but other mills tend to be a large rotating drum, and that rotating drum will have a series of steel balls or steel rods into it, and the thing turns relatively slowly, and it's the impact of the rods or the balls falling inside into the material and then rubbing against the liners of that cause the size reduction. There are a couple of issues with that kind of mill in this kind of concept, in this kind of environment, and one of them related to ball mill and rod mills is that you do tend to pick up a lot of iron filings, and iron is a contaminant in terms of this deposit. This deposit is a low iron spodumene deposit, which gives it particular value. So to take a ball mill here or a rod mill and start chucking bits and pieces of iron into it isn't exactly the most desirable thing. We don't mind a bit of tungsten, but very little of it comes off in actual fact. Very, very little, if any. Okay, so that's the one thing. The other thing about this thing is the ease of maintenance and ease of change. Yeah, there's a lot of guys working on it at the moment, but this is a 22 kilowatt motor. There are 10 of them. I'd rather be looking at 10 22 kilowatt motors and trying to start those than looking at a 300 or 400 kilowatt motor as a single motor with special starter components, much higher electricity bills, all of that kind of thing that goes with it. So modern, very modern design, interesting piece of kit, works well, needs to be optimized within the circuit that we're in. It's been one of the difficulties in getting tonnages right up to where we want to get to, getting the right amount of material through the mill, getting it balanced against the screens that are sitting in the background, recirculating back to the mill and getting right size reductions in right quantities. So a lot of work has been done on it. There's a lot of progress happening, and that's all good. So that's where we are.
Excellent.
All right.
Very well explained.
Thank you.